Okay, status check, go, no go for LOI. Retro?
We're go flight all the way.
Green light. Fido?
We're go flight.
Guidance.
We're go with no attitude.
Control? Telcom? GNC? ECOM, are you go? Surgeon?
We're go.
ONP? AFD? FAO?
Go.
Green light. Network? Okay, Capcom, give me a green light. We're go for LOI.
Also going well with our count. We will stand by as we again bring hydrogen back to the third stage. You will see how that operates. We're now at T-minus 2 hours, 9 minutes, 4 seconds and counting.
First attempt to fire a man-made moon into orbit.
All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Educational Gamer, and after this intro it should have been pretty clear that we are gonna play Buzz Aldrin's Space Program Manager over here. So we are gonna play a new game over here. We are gonna start as NASA as the US campaign, so we are gonna be in direct competition with the Soviets on hard difficulty, of course, to place a man into space. So let's start over here. NASA has just been established. We get a little bit of intro text from Werner von Braun, a little bit the tutorial really, a bit of a historically tainted character maybe. That's it. Right, so here we are. We are NASA, it's 1955. Our mission is ultimately to beat the Soviets in a race to the moon and back. Sorry, to bring a man to the moon and back safely is what I should say. Famous words, of course, by Kennedy. Now, Kennedy hasn't been around in 1955. Still, the race to space is on. And we need to beat the Soviets. Now, you can see we're starting with some meager resources over here. So we are not going to need to build up our facilities, our personnel, and conduct the certain missions to go to the moon. Now, what I think will be very interesting to learn over here is how the precise steps to the moon were, what could have been a little bit different, and how really the space program has been built up over time through its various mission profiles. So ultimately, of course, we're gonna see hopefully the Apollo missions with some Gemini missions in between, but you can see over here this is the solar system, somewhat simplified in its representation, and right now we do only have a couple of potential missions. Specifically, you can see over here that the only missions that we can do in 1955 are the missions around Earth. So we need to break out of Earth first. There are a lot of missions available over here, Explorer 1, Pegasus satellite, and so on and so forth. And there will be some on the moon, there will be some on Venus, on Mercury, around the Sun even, Jupiter, Mars, and so on. None on the outer planets as of now, but that is what we're gonna try to do over here. So, I'll talk a little bit about the interface first, then we're gonna go into the strategic aspects. So the interface, this is built up through a couple of buildings over here. You can forget about the museum, but our headquarters, our public affairs office are very important to keep the drive on our current systems, whereas these four buildings over here do give us more of the current structure and our current capabilities. You can see right now we do not have any astronaut center, so we can't even train astronauts. We don't have any mission control center. We don't have a vehicle assembly. And we do only have a small SET center, so that stands for Science, Engineering and Technology. So that is where we basically conduct our R&D. Flight control will be the people on the ground controlling the missions that we run, and astronauts are of course the people who are going to be in the air. Not only though, there is going to be always one communicator, I would say, on the ground to communicate with the people in the air. Vehicle, of course, is where we actually build our vehicles. Now, in 1955, you might know that the Soviets were quite ahead in the space race early on, so we're going to try to prevent that and get better missions, be more successful than NASA was in the early stages, but of course hopefully be just as successful or even better in the later stages of the build-up. So let's take a view on... Let's start with headquarters over here. This interface you've seen. Right now we can only run missions on Earth. In Earth there are 5 different categories of potential missions, from just satellites to space planes to various different spacecraft that are increasingly difficult, to 1-man, 2-man, 3-man capsules basically. Of course, the easiest are going to be the satellites. You can see we have 4 different satellite programs. Each program, again, can conduct of certain mission types. So Explorer 1 being the historically first satellite that the Americans put up into space. And there's always a little bit of flavor text if we go over these. So this program compromises the launch and deployment of a satellite equipped with instrumentation, provides a regular mission configuration that lasts for 1 season, and for an extended mission that lasts for 3 and grants higher prestige when completed. So you can see these are the 2 mission types that could be run over here, and we can see some technical details of that. So you could see that, for example, this mission would consist in a couple of different stages, from the launch or launch preparations to the countdown, actual launch, and so on. We need some flight controllers for that, a booster engineer and a spacecraft engineer. That's fine, we don't need to be too concerned with that now. For now we're gonna be happy that this is something that we could do. Now, this has more than one mission configuration, that's fine. We can see that there are several different achievements that we can unlock, and I think that would be very worthwhile to keep in mind. Now, the other alternative, sorry about the noise, is to start maybe with a spaceplane project. The X-15 experimental spaceplane over here. Again, one mission, one program, the spaceplane program, consisting of potentially up to 3 different mission profiles over here. So that is basically the main mission screen over here, where we can initiate these programs and so on. We're gonna talk about a little bit about the R&D once we actually get into the programs. Firstly, I do want to look at the strategic aspects though, and that starts in our public affairs program. You can see there are a lot of numbers. We don't actually need to be concerned with too many of these, except for our funding, of course. We currently have 18.5 thousand, I'm guessing millions or even billions of dollars over here, with an income of 2.7, some of which we are using to pay certain salaries and maintenance, which is fine. But most importantly, we are currently in a season of 4 years in 16 seasons, so 4 seasons per year. And in 4 years, so 1959, we are going to be assessed based on our current prestige. Prestige can be earned by completing missions successfully, can be deducted by losing missions or failing to do missions. So that's going to be very interesting to increase our prestige. We do need to increase our prestige to at least 250, otherwise we fail the game. Ideally though, we'd want to be at least 2,500, so we do earn the maximum next budget in the next season. So we are under immediate pressure to generate some prestige over here and complete some missions. So let's go back to headquarters, let's go back over here, and I think what we're going to start with is what I think was historically the first to start, the X-15 space plane. So you can see opening this program would cost us 1.4 million. That's well within our budget, and it would cost us 150,000 per month to run. So let's go ahead, let's open that program. Now, since we've opened this, we can now start to conduct these missions over here. So you can see they have a little green interface over here now, and that's fine. So we could start to conduct flight tests with the X-15. There is one problem though. Well, a couple of problems actually. Firstly, we need an astronaut. We don't really have any astronauts. We need flight controllers. We don't have any flight controllers. More importantly though, the reliability of the spaceplane is right now 3%. And that's literally, it has a 3% chance of surviving this mission, including the astronaut on board. So we will need to conduct some R&D on the spaceplane before we actually dare to conduct any missions. But in order to be able to conduct the R&D, we needed to open the program. See, now we have this little button over here, manage programs, and this is where we can assign R&D personnel to the spaceplane itself. So let's go ahead and let's see whom we've got over here. Couple of decent people, couple of not so great people. Nevertheless, we do have 5 engineers in total. We could have 7 right now with our current facilities, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and let's assign all of these people. You will see that the projected improvement just over the next quarter is going to be 26%, so we're going to have a much better aircraft. And by the way, you can see the first person is the most important, so 13%. The second person gonna have a marginal impact that is all the way lower to over here. Does have some aspect on their capabilities, but you can see that right now we'd be pretty good. Nevertheless, that does leave us with one person, so let's go to the SAT Center, the Space Science Engineering Technology Center over here, and look at the people that we've got. You can see most of these people are assigned to this space, to the X-15 research. I can see these people have different capabilities in the different fields that we can research. So from rockets, space probes, human-rated rockets, EVA suits, so extravehicular activity suits, spacesuits basically, to crewed aircraft. I think this is pretty fine. We do have people who are working on this. We're not very qualified, to be honest. 28% is not that great. He'd be much better suited to conduct some research on EVA suits, but we don't have any for now. There are also other statistics. There's the salary, so how much do these people cost us per turn. There's the morale, which is actually not that important, I found in game. And there's the learning capacity. That is much more important. So you can see a couple of people are at 90 or even higher, which is pretty good. Then there are a couple of people who are at 70, 60. These people will probably kick out because they'll not be able to improve their stats quite as well. And I would really like to have people who are a little bit better at what they're doing in the long term, and that is where training comes in. You can see we saved on Justin Battelle and I suppose his team over here. Even though he might be actually not that bad at researching, even though crewed spacecraft certainly isn't his strong suit, nevertheless he's really good at learning. So that is something that we're going to do right now, and we're going to have a brief look at what he can do over here, and I think he'd be a very good rocket engineer. So he already is pretty good at rockets and human-grade rockets, so we're going to assign him to training, and we're going to train up his capability in rockets. So we're going to send him away for 3 turns at a cost of $100,000, which is fine, I think. So he'll be away for 3 seasons, but he will improve his rocket ability by 20% or so. We could also think about maybe training some other people, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at who we could hire. And again, I'm mostly concerned with the learning capability here. So 96% is pretty good. 96%, 92%, oh sorry, 92% might be decent. So let's look at the other stats of these people. You're pretty expensive, I have to say. Pretty good stats overall though. You're not that cheap either. You're pretty old too. So given that you're very old and expensive, I don't think I'd like to take you on board. You again, very expensive, kind of old, so you'd retire pretty early. So I don't think you're very great. All the other people have a training below 90. I'm probably not going to take you up. Maybe Anthony? 27. By the way, I do find it hilarious that the pictures have absolutely no correlation to the age. So This guy is supposed to be 27. This guy is supposed to be 23. So yeah, I don't know, honestly. Nevertheless, so yeah, you're young. You're very costly though. Do we want to take you on board? You're pretty good at a couple of things. So you know what? I'm going to take you on board even though you're very expensive. And I'm not that great. So we're going to hire these 2 recruits. That should be fine. We're now at 7 out of 7 capacity. These people are on basic training, so they'll only be truly joining us in 2 seasons. Nevertheless, we are conducting some research now, so that's fine. What else can we do then? We can go to construction mode over here and start our mission control center. We're going to also expand our astronaut center. It's going to be fun. It's going to take 2 seasons, going to cost us a little bit, going to cost us more in upkeep. So we will very certainly be strained by our resources very soon. Yeah, we definitely need a vehicle assembly building. It's going to take some time. Maybe we could have waited a little while, but I don't think it's that important. Also, one of the most important changes might be that we could expand our SAT center so that we get more than 7 people. And I do think that would be very worthwhile, because it would allow us to get more people, firstly. But here's one catch. You can only hire people once every year. So since we just hired 2 people, the what was their name? Anthony and Joe. So given that we only can do that every can only do that every year, we don't need to increase that now. It would take 2 seasons to build, but that would mean it's pretty much idle for 2 seasons. So no need to do that right now. I think that's pretty fine. So let's end our season over here. Yes, we do actually want that. So this is the screen between seasons. You can see that we increased the reliability of the X-15 by nearly 30%, which is pretty good. So very happy about this result, and that should be fine. We do get some news over here. We do see that the Soviets have opened 2 programs actually already, Sputnik 1 and Vostok. Vostok is the first human flight capable, I think, at the Soviet side. Sputnik, of course, the satellite. And then it does tell us about a couple of things that we just did, which we know. We did hire 2 people, we did open a program, we did build certain things, and 1 building has already been finished. Right, so here we have our speech of Kennedy. I think it's a pretty good speech. The only thing that always irks me is "and do the other things." It's just so generic. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they're easy. Anyway, I'm derailing over here. So we have set up our mission. Yeah, we know about that. So our goal definitely is to get to at least 2,500 prestige. Where do we stand on that? Let's actually look at our program. Let's look at the X-15 space program. So if we do the flight tests, we can get a meager 250 prestige if we are successful. If we do the experimental first flight, we do get 600, so not that great either. But we can get up to 1,350 over here. So if we do all of these missions within this time frame of the first 4 years, we will get about 2,000, is it? Yeah, 1,950, 2,200. So it wouldn't be enough to get to 2,500 prestige, but nearly so. And sometimes you can repeat some of these flight tests, even though you'd be getting very much diminishing returns. So that being said, we might be tempted to open another profile over here. And I think it would be prudent to do as the Soviets did and at least open the Explorer Run regular mission. Again, it's going to cost us $1 million to open that. It's going to cost us a little bit for upkeep, which is a little bit unfortunate, but now we can think about conducting the Explorer Run regular mission at a prestige gain potentially of 1,600 points. So that would be great to do so. Specifically, we earn more if we are the first to do so, so it does pay off to think about this early. Now, as with the X-15, we could think about the payload over here, so the Explorer 1, as you can see, very low current reliability. On the other hand, we'd also need a rocket. Specifically, it does tell us we need a rocket capable of reaching a low Earth orbit worth 11 kilograms of payload. That's a very, very small rocket, but let's click this button. So it does tell us that we do not have any rockets, and in fact we need to wait to be able to build rockets until we get our vehicle assembly building finished. Of course, we started to build that early on, so that's not an inherent problem, but it does mean we should go over here and manage our payload on it a little bit. You can see that the projected improvement of the X-15 is coming up lower, so initial gains are very easy to achieve, but as you go higher it starts to come down a little bit. So we also have the Explorer 1 satellite over here, so what I would like to do then is let's first unassign all of these people and let's think about reassigning them. So who would be actually the best at Explorer 1 over here? I was afraid a little bit about that. It's actually Emilio Hurst over here is very good, well suited to both space probes and crewed spacecraft. So actually this correlates really well. It's the same people who are really good at it. So, and nevertheless, let's keep Emilio over here at the spacecraft. Then we're gonna assign you to the Explorer 1. You can see a very good improvement of 10% over here. And then we're gonna sort of switch between these people. These are really not that great scientists. But it's a little bit better to improve a couple of things at the same time rather than making one big push, unless you want to beat the Soviets in one particular regard. Still, as the diminishing results of any additional employee are somewhat lower, it does pay out to balance that. So let's go back to the space complex over here. Let's keep an eye on these things. So in 2 seasons we'll have 2 more, in 1 season these people will graduate from basic training, and someone is in advanced training just in over here. In 2 seasons, that really works well, I think, because then we'll probably have someone ready to conduct a rocket launch. So it's 2 seasons, so I don't think we need to expand the SAT center over here. What I do want though, no, that's fine. What I do want though is to go to the mission control center, and we'll need to hire a couple of mission controllers. We can hire up to 5 people in total, which I think is fine. And again over here the most important thing to me is really the capability to learn. So let's hire people who are at least at 90 or so, or otherwise very convincing. You're all kind of old actually, but not that cheap. Nevertheless, I do think it's good to have a stock of people who are somewhat capable. So yeah, you're very expensive and not even above 90. You're very cheap and nearly at 90. Would you be a good candidate then? We need at least a couple of people, so we're gonna pick Paul over here. We're gonna hire these recruits. It's gonna add a lot of fixed costs to us, but I think for now that's gonna be fine. If we go over here, you can see all of these people are in basic training as well, so it's gonna take a while for them to finish, but that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So that being said, I think we will end the season over here. I think we're gonna play till 1956. Or maybe to the first mission. Let's see how that plays out. Yes, I think we can end the current season. You can see the improvement coming in here for the different things, which is fine, but still, you know, at 46% it's really not at the point where I would like to fly that or put a man on that. News over here, nothing new from the Soviets. We did see some things, but that is what we just did, so that shouldn't be too surprising. We do have 2 people up over here ready in just trained scientists, and these are really good people actually, especially Joe over here has a lot of capability already without training. Ultimately, I would really like to push these people up a little bit more. But since both of these people are really capable right now, what I'm going to do is go to payloads. Gonna unassign all these people again. Sorry about the redundancy there. And we're gonna see that you are very good at crewed spacecraft. You are very good at space probes. Spacecraft. Probes. That's fine. So that should improve our improvements, yeah, quite a little bit. So that does leave us with these two people who are a little bit duds. They're really bad at everything that they do, and they are not that great at learning. Top of that, they're pretty expensive, so gonna fire these people pretty soon, I think. Nevertheless, it might be worthwhile to go and open a rocket program. So these are the different rocket programs that we could open, and you can see all of these carry different characteristics in terms of reliability, current, the difficulty of researching that, the unit costs for launching one of these rockets, and the maintenance cost of keeping a program running, also the cost of opening such a program. You probably saw that the low Earth orbit requirement on the first satellite that we had was just 11 kilos, so it might be worthwhile to opening the Jupiter C booster over here. It's pretty cheap. We could directly go for the Juno 2 booster. It's a little bit more difficult to research that, but it can carry more of a capability. Nevertheless, I'm going to start with the first and basic missile over here, or rocket, simply because once you research the previous ones, the current reliability of these trickle down to the next rocket. So it's a very good choice to keep researching the very cheap rockets as well. Similar profile over here, the current reliability is really bad. Research difficulty is not that high. We can research improvements up to 85%, and there are some costs of developing this. Now again, these people are not that great at developing this, but even so, they can improve this by 10 percentage points over here, so that is fine, I think. You guys are all pretty good at what you're doing, so I think I won't draw you away from what you're doing, even though you'd be great at researching rockets too. Yeah, you know what, since you have at least a 40%, oh no, let's keep you over here, because I do know that one of our people who's in advanced training should be finishing next turn, and he'll be a really good rocket engineer. Now, as you can see, scientists are one of our bottlenecks, so I definitively want to go ahead over here and expand our SAT center. It's going to cost us $1 million, and more importantly, it's going to cost us 400,000 just in upkeep, and of course we'll need to pay salaries to the new employees, so that will strain our finances. You see, we're barely turning a profit anymore, but I do think that is worthwhile, simply because scientists are always such a bottleneck. Now, we also can, for the first time, nope, I don't want to construct, I do want to go to the astronaut center over here and start hiring our first astronauts. You can see the game is maybe a little bit geared to the modern age in that we have quite a bit more females over here actually than males. That's not typical, but I think early on in the space program there were very few female astronauts. Nevertheless, we are going to pick by the learning capability here again, because we are in for the long term and we need some astronauts who are really good in the long term, which I think all of these people are. So next, let's look at the age. I think that's fine. You're also all very cheap, except for Cynthia over here. That being said, I think this is something that we can work with, including this surely 28-year-old person. So we're gonna have 4 actually female astronauts, and just Mauricio over here as a male astronaut. I appreciate that, even though it's not particularly historical. Nevertheless, let's go ahead. Let's add these people to our payroll. It's gonna cost us again 170,000, and we don't need them now, but it is worthwhile to keep them around, just to make sure that we can conduct their training and so on and so forth. Right, in terms of training, we might actually want to look at the program over here at the X-15 and see what stages we would actually have. So These would be 4 stages, and I would like to see whether the pilot needs anything over here. Any particular profile. I think it's just leadership, but I might be wrong. Anyway, let's go back to the space complex over here. I think we did everything that we need to do this turn. There's no sense in expanding, well, there is a sense in expanding the mission control center because we definitively want more people, more controllers. But we do need to be mindful of our finances. Increasing that would be costing another 350,000. And just right now, I don't think that's on the card. So let's end the season over here. See our improvements coming in, 60%. This is a point where we might, if we are very pressed, start to think about conducting this mission. For satellite, yeah, some marginal improvements, still not that great. Couple of news, that's fine. So let's get over here. I think most importantly, this person just finished its training, Justin Patel over here, and is now 76% capable of conducting rocket research, which is pretty fantastic. So we could just add him here, and that would be perfectly fine. 3 people would be working on the rocket program, and you can see we would have nearly 16% improvements. But if we put Justin over here, yeah, you can see it's almost 4 percentage points more. So simply because he is the most capable and the person on the left counts the most, that's a very relevant factor to keep thinking about. So that's fine. We don't have anyone else who is available right now. We could think about rebalancing a little bit between the different programs. I think the rocket would be very good to improve, and nevertheless I do think that we need some improvements over here. So all in all, this seems to be fine. To me, we can't hire anyone right now. You should see that if we try to hire one, yeah, it does give us an error message. Next season, in the year 1956, we will be able to do so, however. On the flight controller side, you can see that all of these people are now available. And that is pretty fantastic, because now we can tell these people to conduct some training. And here it does get a little bit more complicated. So you have different roles, as you can see. So propulsion, trajectory, spacecraft, systems, crew and payload, mission operations, and flight director. Now generally it does make sense to specialize, so to get people to do a certain thing only. And we can sort by these things, for example. So this might be our best propulsion flight engineer, this might be the person who's best at trajectory. So that's very good. There's also the profile of flight director, and that is the person who has on average the best capability. So you need at least one specialist, one generalist and a couple of specialists to conduct a flight. If you remember well, on our programs there were certain different requirements. So for example, on the EX-15, let's look at this flight profile over here. You can see that we do need 4 people: trajectory, booster, spaceplane systems, and flight director. That might be a little bit different. Sometimes you need more than one person in any different role, and for the later, more advanced versions, we definitively will need some other people. So let's make sure we have someone with a good capability in all of these fields then. So I think you'd be actually very well suited to do spacecraft systems. You have a very high load on that already. You're actually our best person in terms of learning, so long term you might be a good flight director. Nevertheless, you're going to start to learn that. On trajectory, yeah, I think you're a very good person to learn that. So you can see for 3 seasons this person will be out in training. We can remove her from training, but that would diminish the returns a little bit. You're actually the best propulsion engineer. You're very good at spacecraft systems though. You're a little bit better at learning too. So even though you're 5 percentage points behind him, spacecraft systems. So trajectory, spacecraft systems, and the flight director. You might be a good flight director. You're the second best flight director actually. And you're much better at learning. So you know what? We are gonna make Chastity our flight director. We are gonna pick the one that gives us the highest yield, because remember, for the flight director it's important to have a very round profile. So we're gonna pick mission operations over here. It's gonna yield the biggest improvements that we have. Do a single training course, and you then are our propulsion engineer, which is fine. Right. That's fine. So these people are in training, and I think that will be a very, very nice place to put in a cut. So we are going to enter the year 1956 next time. Probably going to start our very first mission, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So let's see whether we can beat the Soviets, and I will look very much forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye. Oh, by the way, I don't usually ask for that, but since this is the first video of the season, if you can drop a like if you like the season, that'd be immensely helpful for the channel. So yeah, thank you for that. Bye bye.